Hello, my nail friends! I have something new for you. We are going to be doing a snow scene today. I'm super excited about this one. So, this was new for me. New in the sense of I paint. I don't usually paint these things on nails though. So, I started off with one of the Madame Glam holographic nail polishes, and to save my life, I cannot remember which one it actually is. It's a light blue. I did pick it up just recently, so if you're watching this at the beginning of 2024, I'm sure it is still available. It is one of the most sparkly holographics that I own. I adore this color, actually, much more than I anticipated. And I am also using Madame Glam's gel paints. So this is a completely gel set. What I'm doing first is just laying in my snow for the background. So I kind of know where I want stuff to be. And I'm using I think that's a Madame Glam ombre brush. It might not be, but it's an ombre brush nonetheless. The reason I'm using an ombre brush is because it is allowing me to just sort of manipulate the color in a way that allows that holographic to sort of peek through the background, which adds shadowing to my snow so that my snow has a little bit of character. You can see the far left nail has sort of a line through it where I did not paint all the way across it. That's because that's going to be water in a few minutes. But first, what I am doing is mixing up, well, I'm not mixing. I'm just using black straight. So I haven't cured anything. I'm working wet on wet with everything. I'm adjusting the camera, I apologize. And we're going to do some trees. So the easiest way I have found, this is a night scene, so obviously the trees aren't going to have a whole lot of color. Pretty much the entire scene, with the exception of the cabin, is going to be sort of monochromatic. So just kind of, this is going to sound weird, but like spatter paint your lines, if that makes sense. I'm trying to get as close as I can so you can see. I'm just creating these little lines, and I'm not being particularly organized about it. The less organized you are, the better. So my two recommendations with fir trees is be really disorganized and be careful your pattern. Your eye is going to want to make the same pattern over and over and over again. You don't really want that to happen, so feel free to be imperfect. Isn't that lovely? Yes, this is about being imperfect. Too much symmetry will make the tree look funny because the eye wants it to be symmetrical, but it doesn't, if that makes sense, because nature really isn't that organized in that way. I am coming down a little further into the snow because you'll notice the back tree is smaller, the front tree is bigger. That is because it is in the foreground, it is closer to us, so that is why I made that tree bigger. And we are going to add some snow to these eventually, but for right now we're just putting in our patterns. So now it looks like that front tree is right in front of us, and there's kind of a little field, and then there's a tree behind us, and maybe we're going on a sleigh ride, I don't know. That'd be fun. I should try to do like a set of horses in a sleigh or something. I wonder if I could do that. Things to ponder. Okay, what I am doing now is mixing up some black and gray so that there's just a slight off shade, and I'm adding some shadowing just around the base of my tree because eventually one of these nails is going to have a little bit of a sliver of a moon. And even in very low lighting, you will have just a tiny bit of a shadow. So the snow is not going to be completely white in, the middle of the night, essentially. So we're going to add a little bit of shadow, and then I'm going to add some little white drifts of snow to just give it that depth so that it doesn't look too flat. Because snow is never flat, right? We have snow right now, speaking of. All right, still working wet on wet. I'm just using the tip of my brush to tap on these bits of snow onto the tree. This was so much fun. It does take a while though. So I always talk about how long would this take in the salon, right? What is the reality of this? You would probably, if you were going to do this on all 10 nails and had never done something like this before, I would book out an extra hour. I'm not even joking. because it does take a while. I think I could probably do this I could probably do 10 nails in about 40 minutes, and that would be me. So I would definitely book out at least an hour. If you're more skilled than I, then go you. And you just go for that and book whatever time you think. But it does take time. If you wanted your nail tech to do this for you, please forewarn them and maybe send them the video or show them what you're thinking and tell them that you want to have this done so that they have that extra time. Right now I am adding, so I finished that nail. That nail's I was going to say the dryer, the nail dryer. In the nail light. And while that's going, I am taking my liner brush and just adding in a little black line to the edge of my snow. Now remember, this is still wet, right? I haven't cured this nail. So I can then go and drag through, like I'm doing right now, to add some little shadows and things to my snow before I add my tree. We're going to add a big tree here. This is fun. I love doing trees. They're, my uncle would say, a pain because, they take a lot of picky work and time. And he is absolutely right. When we do these on canvases, it takes a lot of picky work and time. However, with gel polish, you can run the colors together and get these interesting blends and things. And you're working on such a small surface that your level of detail needs to be a lot less than like an 8x16 canvas. However, you do want to make sure you have enough detail. Now, two things about one of these oak type trees or maple trees, whatever you want to make it, is you have to be careful not to put all of your branches straight up, because if you put them all straight up, it'll look like this weird alien with its hands in the air. So yeah, you don't really want to do that. However, you do want to make sure that you have some branches going down, like I'm making right now, some going up, and you want a lot of little branches. Because if you live in any of the states that currently do not have tree leaves on their trees, and you really look at the trees around you, you will notice that there are so many more branches up there than you actually really consciously think there are. So when you really start looking at the trees, which I started doing after I started painting with my uncle, I realized just how many branches there are. And that's why it makes it picky work. Because my top is so heavy, my bottom has to balance. And so even though my tree trunk is kind of going off the nail a little bit, I wanted to make sure that it was thick enough to support my upper branches. Keep in mind that trees in reality are symmetrical? Yes, they are symmetrical. In the sense that whatever you're doing to the top, you have to do to the bottom, because a tree actually grows in both directions the same way. So because my trunk goes out to the right a little bit, I decided to go down and make my trunk a little thicker. Does that explain it? Hopefully that all made sense. I don't know if that made sense or not. Don't forget, if you are watching this, to like and subscribe and share this. Please share. I'm loving the fact that I have picked up so many subscribers in the last month or two, so I appreciate you. If you are new to my channel, I am so happy to have you here and loving the fact that you're here and that you're new. I hope you keep on watching, and tell me please in the comments if there's something you want to see me try or something you want to see me do. If you want to give me a challenge, I love all of that. So feel free to, shout out and let me know what you're thinking. And I will try to make that happen for you. Right now I'm just getting picky with my work. I'm adding a little bit of white ice onto my water. Yeah, you can see it right there. It's really hard to see because it's very tiny. And then I finished up, I added a little bit more snow and also some highlights. So just to get back to that. So that is 2 nails down. We have 3 left to go. On this nail, we are going to be doing the cabin, I think. Yes, look at that. See, I could remember. For a second, I was like, what did I do on this nail? So in order to do the cabin, really you're starting off with, think about it like a box. You want to do a 3-dimensional box, or at the very least a 2-dimensional box. So you just want to have, that box, and then you can see I'm going off to the side a little bit and drawing my box back backwards a little bit. It does require you have a little bit of knowledge of geometry and space, but it's pretty easy to do. The next thing we're going to be doing, and we will go back and adjust this because it's not going to be quite done yet, is I'm adding a little bit of a road and a fence along that side, and I'm again using wet on wet. So I am dragging it right through the white paint, and that is going to give me a little bit of a fade eventually. I'm just going to stop and clean off my brush. That's what I'm doing. So if you see me just put the nail down randomly, that is what I'm doing. I picked up my ombre brush, I think it is. Oh no, it's just a blending brush, I'm sorry. A blending brush, and I decided to blend out, I wasn't really liking my fence. So I blended it out a little bit, and now I'm going back in and just dabbing in a little more white. Just make my road a little bit smaller, because it got way too big too fast. The nice thing about working wet on wet is you can do this. So if you don't like something, you can just kind of smudge it out and start again. If you were to have put this in the light, you could also do the same thing. Like you could paint over it. So now I'm going to go in and add some texture again to my snow because I had gotten rid of all of that. And this is the only nail in the set, I think, that we have to cure more than once. Most of them I work wet on wet for the whole thing. So I'm just going to clean my brush again. I added my road back in. And now I'm going to go over to the black and put some more trees in. Because, you know, your house isn't going to just be standing there in the middle of, like, an open space. Especially not because it's a winter scene and out in the middle of the woods. So we're imagining this is a lovely little, maybe it's a ski cabin out in the middle of the woods, right? So we're going to put a big old fir tree out there up on the hill. And we're going to bring it down a little bit so that it's almost in front of the edge of the cabin. So it looks like you're just kind of peering through a clearing and, you know, seeing that little cabin out in the edge there. And then behind it, we're also going to add another, just the edge of like an oak tree. It's not we're not going to see the whole tree because it's somewhere out behind the cabin. I hope you're all having a fantastic week. It is currently snowing again here. It was snowing all day Sunday. I think it was Sunday. Yeah, Saturday into Sunday. Now we're getting snow, and then it's going to rain, I guess, on top of that. So that's going to be fun. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm just, you know, being picky here, so I'm just like picking at my design a little bit. We're going to put that into the light. Hopefully you guys are doing well and you're not currently buried in snow or ice or both. If you are, I'm sorry. I hope you're enjoying it. Alright, so I'm taking a second to just clean some things up, and then we're going to pull that next nail down. And on this nail, we are going to make a snowman. So here we go. I'm using the back of my brush to just get three blobs. Yeah, I do three. Okay. Sometimes I do two snowball snowmen. This is going to be a three ball snowman. And so now that I have my balls, I'm just going to go in and just make him a little less perfect because, you know, snow's not perfect. And unless you really, really spend some time outside with your snowballs, it's not going to be perfect. So we're going to make him a little imperfect. And we're going to let him be kind of facing toward the, we're letting him face toward the sky. So we're going to put a moon up there, like a half moon, and let him sort of face the sky. So how do I do this half moon and make it look like it's kind of fuzzy? I do that by using a little bit of alcohol in the paint And then I apologize because I'm a little bit off screen. I'll have to see if I can fix that. I'm a little off screen, but I go in and just kind of fuzz it out. So I'm almost like watering it down, if that makes sense. There we go. And I'm going to cure that where it is. All right. And while that's going on, I'm going to work on this nail. This is our last nail. And this nail is just going to get some quick trees because it's the end of our scene, so that would be a pinky nail. My kids are trying to be incredibly quiet while I'm recording.
Hi. Mom.
So again, we're just painting down and thinking, you do have to think spatially about where you want these trees to be and what you want them to look like. All right, so our tree on the right-hand side, I had to think about that. Right hand, left hand? Yes. On the right-hand side is going to go down into the back. It's going to be further away, and then I'm thinking about where I want my next tree to go, and that's going to come much closer to the foreground. So I'm going to start that a little bit. It's, it's maybe a slightly smaller tree, but we're going to put that in a little bit further to the foreground is what we're going to do. I'm sorry if you can hear the craziness of my house in the background. It's that time of day. So what I'm doing now is just making one more tree even a little further forward. Now this one was a little bit gray at first because I mixed a little too much white paint into it, but we're going to go back and fix that up a little bit. Right now I just want to make sure that the shape is in there. So this is kind of like, just like a little forest of trees. There we go. Now I've got the black and I'm just going back in and tidying up. So now you'll get kind of it makes like like there's a shadow and some light at the same time in between. And the sander's going by. Wow, today it's a very eventful, this is a very eventful recording. I'm going to decide to go a little taller with that back tree, and I think I make the front, that second tree a little bit taller too. We'll have to see. And then we're going to add some white to the ends of the branches, so that it looks like there's some snow sticking to them. The thing with snow on branches is to make sure that you're kind of uneven. You just want it to kind of dot things here and there. You don't want it to be, if you put a bunch of diagonal lines all in the same direction, it would look really kind of funky. So you don't want to do that. You just want to kind of scatter them. Again, you can see I'm just being a little bit messy. I'm intentionally trying not to be too neat about it. Okay. So, and then lastly, I'm going to go in and just put a little shadow and a little shape to the bottom there. And yeah, we'll be just about done this nail. Still working wet on wet, so I haven't changed anything there. I'm going to add my highlights. And I'm working with a dirty brush too. That's something to probably note. Sometimes you'll find that when you work with a dirty brush, it works better only because when you're working monochromatically, you're getting multiple tones in your brush at the same time, and it can create some interesting effects. But if you're really unsure, I would clean your brush in between each paint. All right, so what am I doing now? So I am going back to my cabin. Remember that I said this is the nail that's going to take us the longest. I just put a little bit of a door, like almost like the door is open or light is coming from the door. And I cast that onto the snow as well because, you do want it to do that. It would be weird if you had this window or door lighting up and it didn't have any reflection on the snow. So you just got to be aware of anytime you're putting lighting into your house, it should reflect on the snow, especially if it's at night. That's true too if you look at even just light being cast in general. If you look at a street lamp or houses in the dark when you walk by, you know, there's always, if there's light emanating from it, it's going to cast some kind of a shadow. So just making sure that that is on your snow and, you know, following through. You will notice I still do not have a roof on my house. That is fine. We're going to get there. Don't worry. That is going to be snow covered as well. So that's why it's not on there yet. What I'm doing right now is creating my logs in my log cabin. So I'm just taking the black and streaking it very lightly onto, here comes my roof, very lightly onto the brown so that it just looks like there's like a little shadow, a little indication. There's not too much detail there, just a little indication that there's some logs. And here comes the roof. Ta-da! I know you're excited. And we're going to add a chimney and a little bit of smoke. And that should just about finish our cabin in the woods. So much fun. The glittery background, the reason I love that is because it looks like there's a million stars. It looks like you're out in the middle of the woods and there's a million stars. If I had tried to plan it, I probably couldn't have planned it any better. For the roof, I'm just doing a little bit of like a grayish brown. I just mixed a little brown and gray. And then I'm just adding a little bit of that white. Again, using a little bit of alcohol in with that just to thin the paint a little bit. So that it looks like there's some smoke coming out of the chimney. We're going to do that to add our clouds as well at the very end. So we just have this one, and then we have our snowman to finish, and our snow scene is going to be complete. I did top coat on top of these. You don't really have to because the gel paints can be done on their own. Like they don't need to be sealed over, but I like to seal them if I'm going to do something like this because I just always worry about it. I always worry about it. All right, so continue on. Sorry, I had to stop my recording for a second. All right, so I'm just putting in my fence and my fence posts right now onto that area that we had shadowed earlier on. And then I will add a little bit more snow. I decided I didn't want my tree to be quite as far down as I had it. That is the nice thing about, because this is the one that we cured earlier, so we cured it already once. If you make a mistake like that, just cure it, and then you can go over it with a new coat of paint and make things disappear that you don't want there. So that's always really helpful. And then I'm just adding a little bit of snow, again, making sure that you can see they're kind of facing different angles. And I'm putting a little bit of snow on my branches as well. On this one. I don't remember if I added snow to that other tree, but you can if you wanted to. I don't think I did, the one that's by the lake, the frozen lake, but you could if you wanted to. Maybe the snow fell off in that area. This is that cloud cover that I was talking about. So we're going to just add some little clouds, and I'm going to do that again by running the brush. So I put a little paint on. I'm going to run it through a little bit of alcohol and just cause it to, see if I wiggle the brush, it just makes it sort of fade away a little bit so that it's kind of a translucent. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Now we're going to cure that now. And then we're going to do our snowman. Yeah, I was like, what are we doing next? We're doing our snowman. We're going to give our snowman some arms and a little bit of a side face. Remember, he's staring up at the moon. I got a hair in my brush. And we got to give him also some shadow because right now he's just 3 white balls. So he doesn't have a lot of dimension to him. So we're going to have to work on that. The thing with anything that you want to make, I can't talk tonight. So anything you want to look round or rounded needs to have shadow. So you need to have a lighter side and a darker side in order to make it look like it's rotund. There's a fun word. I just pulled that one out of nowhere. So I'm going to go in and mix a little bit of gray with a little more white so that it's very light. And then you can see I'm just making a little bit of almost like an indent. It's like a mini V and then coming down across the bottom. And then all of a sudden, your snowman has a definition between one ball and the next. We're going to do the same thing up here, where we're just going to add a little line underneath his head and then color one side of his body. This is another time where I did cure it, so it's already been cured a little bit. I did get just a teeny bit too much at the top of his head, because obviously the very top of his head is not going to have a shadow, but we're not going to worry too much about that. I'm going to go back and touch that up, I think, when I start doing his face. Look at that moon. Isn't that so cool? I thought that was like really neat with that whole starry effect behind it. Made me happy. And then I'm going to go up. I'm going to add a little hill here in the distance behind him. Then we're going to decide... Oh, I know why I added that shadow. I'm pretty sure that I added that shadow because, yeah, here it comes. I'm adding the hat. I was thinking, why did I add a shadow on the top of his head? Oh, that's why I added the shadow. Yeah, I remember now. So we're going to give him a little black top hat. So cute. He's so cute. And we're just going to see one eye, just the corner of one eye. So we're going to make a teeny itty bitty bitty dab. And that's going to be it. All right. Put that in the light. Come back to your... Oops, I almost lost that nail. Come back to your cabin. It almost fell off the sticky stuff in the back. Now I'm just getting picky. So this is that part where I'm just going to like add a few more branches if it needs it. Like I went over some of the branches when I added the cloud in the back. So now I'm just going to go over the top of the cloud with the branches because we want the cloud behind, not in front of. So it's just picky work now. So you can get really picky with it. I could have probably picked at these a bit longer, really, but decided not to because, you know, I figured, well, okay. Like at some point, you can end up adding so much detail that you get too detailed. So right now I'm just adding highlights. So once the paint is cured, you can go back in and, believe it or not, you can add another layer, which will appear even brighter because you're layering white on top of white. And so that's what I'm doing right now. You won't really see these fine details so much, but they do make a big difference in the overall effect. So when you're looking at it from a distance or on somebody's nails, it definitely, you know, creates an effect. And now that my paint is cured, I'm going back in and just touching up some of the shadows and things like that. So on the side of the house, you're going to need a shadow because obviously it's casting a shadow, but I got too heavy, so I went back and just put a little more white in there. Again, that's the fun part about working with a dirty brush is if your color is a little too dark or a little too light. The gel paints are really easy to work with. They're very forgiving. Much more forgiving than I feel like acrylic is, so that part's kind of nice. And then I'm going to add a little more shadow over here and just a little gray to the tree, and that'll be that. Now we've got our snowman who still needs a nose. This is the only time I use a color other than black and white and brown, and it's for his carrot nose. And so I did not use it as bright as that is. That's a Madam Glam. That's the orange. I mixed it with my brown so that it would be more monochromatic, but that it would give just a teeny itty bitty pop of color. It may seem trivial to you to like go through all of that for that little itty bitty nose. But I just think it added an overall effect. I am going back in and just shadowing areas on the snowman that I felt needed like a little more or a little less. So again, just being picky. Don't be afraid to be a little bit picky about your snowman or about, you know, your shadows and your light. And we are almost done this set. So I know this is one of my longer videos, and I do appreciate if you are still with me even now, because I know it is one of my longer ones, but I think it was just so worth showing you how to get some of these more advanced techniques of trying to create an entire scene or plan out a scene on a set of nails, because it is unique. It's not something that you see every day. I am adding just a couple, like the little side of his smile, and then just like the very edge of his buttons. Again, super, super tiny stuff. Like, you barely going to see it. Oh, and then I decided to get rid of that, yeah. I was like, when am I going to get rid of that? I know it's not on the final. Yeah, I got rid of it. There was like an extra blip for his arm, and it was out of place, so I got rid of it. And there you go. That is our snowman. Just about done there. Just cleaning him up a little more. And then we'll cure him. So I'm just trying to bring out, I put a little too much shadowing there, and I didn't really want to add more paint, so I was just pulling away some of the, and so how do you do that? Same technique. You're just using a little bit of alcohol, or even if it's cured, you can use a little bit of acetone to just pull up some of the color if you get too much. So there you go. Another quick solution. And I'm just going to add a little bit of highlight now that I've got all my low lights or my shadows in. Isn't he cute? I think he's so cute. All right. So for you keeping track, we have a tree and some water. We have another nail that is just the trees. Yes, trees in a field. We have our snowman with the moon, and then we have a final nail that is trees. I'm going to put them all together in just a minute and show you what that looks like in total. It does go across 5 nails. The other reason that you want kind of almost like a little separate mini scene on the thumbnail is because the thumbnail is something that is oftentimes seen alone. It is the only nail on your hand that is generally seen as a single nail. So just so you know, when you're planning out nail art, that's another little hint or trick. There we go. I can speak. Is that you want to sort of think of your thumbnail almost as its own palette. Because that definitely will help you to have a stunning set of nails. Oftentimes people will almost like downplay the thumbnail, which I think is a big mistake, because your thumbnail is, like I said, the only nail that is oftentimes seen individually, just like mine is right now. Don't look at my nails. They're terrible right now. They're pretty beat up at this point. Okay. So I'm just going in and adding a couple of wispy clouds in places in some of the other nails that I hadn't done yet, which is just a quick 2-second thing. And then we are going to, like I said, put some top coat across the whole set of nails. And I will show you the final product. There it is. Look at this. Check this out. This is so cool. Yeah. There we go, people. There we go. I know you've been waiting a long time for that. Isn't that good? That's a good reward, right? It's a good reward. You waited all that time. If you watched this whole video, again, I so appreciate you. I am grateful for you. I hope that you check in every week, because this is a fun place to be. And I'm always looking for new ideas. So definitely feel free to share, like, subscribe, comment, help me out. Tell me what you want more of. I do have some Valentine's Day things coming up, and I will have some other just winter sets coming up. I do a fun one I think it's coming in a couple weeks. It's moons and stars and snowflakes. That one was a lot of fun. That was actually one of my sons designed that one for you all. So, and I tried to make his vision come to life. And then I've also done some 3D looking roses. So they're not 3D, but they look like 3D. But I am hoping to play with some 3D paste as well and get some of that going on. There you are. There is our whole set. Look at that beauty. And I am going to show you a final image of them all placed together, and I will see you next week. Have a lovely week and be good. See you soon.